Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video we're going to be finishing out part 3 of my Snowy Mission series, and this will also be the final part, so we're going to go ahead and finish all the details and the snow and all the things that we need to do. And if you're following along traditionally, check out part 1 in this series where I have a list of all the paint and all the materials that I use when I'm painting traditionally. So here I wanted to go ahead and add a little bit of some bushes in the snow in the middle ground, just to give it kind of a depth to the painting and add some interest, so that it's not just a whole bunch of snow out there. I wanted to try to put some old dead branches out there, some old dead bushes, or bushes that have lost their leaves because it's winter time. And so I'm using a dark color. You can use dioxazine purple with burnt umber, just kind of a darker grayish color. It doesn't have to be completely black. Just go ahead and give it sort of a softer look than just a harsher black. And so I'm trying to kind of get an idea of where I want them. And if you're following along traditionally, you might sketch these in with some soft charcoal before you add them in, just to see how it looks. Sometimes I have a painting planned out, and sometimes I just kind of add things as I go. Most of the time, I have a general idea, and then I just kind of add things as I go along. And sometimes they don't look good, so I take them out, and that's the beauty of digital work, is that it's easier to take them out, but you can just use soft chalk to see if they'll work if you're doing this traditionally. Usually I don't have that much trouble with adding the little bushes, but this time for some reason I did. But here I want to go ahead and add the old adobe wall in the front. And again, this is called an eye stopper, and that means you add an object or something to the edge of your painting so that it keeps the viewer's eye interested in wandering off the painting. And here I'm adding little bricks. I made a dark brown color underneath and then a lighter brown color in the top. And I'm just adding little square look to the bricks, and also I've started to outline the bricks and the edges there, just to give it kind of like cracks in the mud, that the mud plaster that's put on an adobe wall. And I don't have to add every little brick, a crack to every little brick or an outline, but just kind of want some suggestions of it. And then here I'm going to add the snow on top of the fence, the adobe wall that's in the front here. And you can go ahead and use a white acrylic gesso with a touch of ultramarine blue and dioxazine purple. Just you don't want it real bright white. You want kind of a soft color, like there's starlight or moonlight shining on it. And then here I'm adding little lines of white around the bricks to make it look like there's snow caught in the cracks of this old adobe wall here. And that just kind of gives interest to your painting, to show that the snow is caught in the cracks around the bricks where they've broken and been weathered and stuff, and that just kind of gives it a interesting look. And then I'm smoothing it out a little bit, making it look not so hard like a line. You want soft edges on your snow. You don't want your snow to look real hard edged. You want it soft and and just kind of like it's broken up and melted in places. And here I'm adding the snow on top of the mission church, and you want to go ahead and just add the snow where it would fall, like in the cracks and in the dips on top of the building. And so I'm using the same color of snow that I used on the wall. And then I want to go ahead and kind of smudge it out too. I don't want it to look real harsh or with harsh lines. I just want kind of a soft look, like it's melted onto it. It may have dripped down a little from the sun shining. You can even make it look like there's icicles have kind of fallen on the edge of the building. And I'm also adding a little bit of some drifts of snow in front of the door, like there's steps that have been covered up by the snow, and bushes and old things, the old foundation bricks, things like that have been covered up by the snow, so I don't want a real straight line there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that on the window sills and also on the candle niche on top of the building, or on top of the above the door, and also around the window edge all along there, and on the edge of the other edge of the church. And also you want a little bit of snow on the front of the church where it looks like maybe there's cracks in the adobe wall, or not the wall, cracks in the building, and where the plaster is maybe fallen off a little bit or something. So you want to put a little bit of snow right there. Put some snow in the bell tower. Put some snow a little bit on top of the bell, and that gives the bell its shape and gives it sort of a three-dimensional look. And then you want to go ahead and step back from your painting if you're doing this traditionally and see what it looks like. And for digitally, you just shrink it down and look at it. And then I wanted to go ahead and add clumps of snow along the pathway, like there's rocks or something that are mounds of dirt that have been pushed to the side to make the pathway. Usually they're lined with rocks sometimes, so the snow would be over the top of those, and so you want to kind of just go ahead and give the indication that there's objects under the snow there, and you can use the lighter color once again. And then I'm adding some little lines across the path because the wind will have blown the snow across. It may have melted in parts but drifted in others, so that just kind of gives it a little bit of a more realistic look that way, because it shows that it might be wind blown, and that gives it a natural, organic type of look. And then here I wanted to go ahead and work on the doorway, try to get the doorway straight. I'm using the straight edge tool in Infinite Painter, and you can use your ruler if you're following along traditionally. And I just kind of wanted to get the look of the double doors right there, because it's going to have double doors on it in the church. And so I'm working on it, and then I wanted to see, because it's going to be wooden doors, I wanted to add a little bit of some snow, maybe had blown against it, caught in the cracks of the door, things like that. And just kind of, you just want to add these little details to your building, because that's what makes it come alive. That's what makes it look like a real, actual building with all these little cracks in it and all these textures that it will have on it. And then I added some little door handles right there, and you can just use burnt umber or a dark brown. And then here, this is where we start to light up the building, and this is the fun part. You want to take some orange colors and some yellows, some cad yellow light and some cadmium orange, and add a little bit of white acrylic gesso if you're following traditionally, and just kind of get these colors like it's candlelight shining through it. And don't kill all your dark. You want to go ahead and leave some of the dark around the edges, and just kind of try to get to make it look like there's depth in your building, that there's candles and things. And so I'm adding a little bit more orange around it, and you would do this kind of in layers. You want the yellow and the brightest color to be in the center, so that shows the middle of the light there, and then kind of fade it out around the edges and make it more of an orangish color or a yellowish color. And you want the brightest whites to be in the center. And so I'm just kind of working on that, trying to get that look on the rounded windows. And you have to follow along with the shape of your window seal and just try to kind of get the edges, make them straight, try to keep them straight. That's kind of hard to do once you start adding the lights. You have to be careful. And then here I'm adding some more yellow, and then here's the bright light in the center. And if you're following along traditionally, you would make this really thick white paint, and you can make it almost pure white, maybe add a little touch of cadmium yellow light there. And you want to make sure that you have those different layers of color, though. You don't want to kill all your whites. You don't want to kill all your orange and your yellow. You want to try to have those three colors in there. Some orange, some yellow, and some really pure, not quite pure, but close to pure white there. And you just cut, and you want them to look uneven. You don't want them to look with each one the same amount of white, same amount of yellow. You want to pat around on the surface of it and make it look kind of patchwork or rough, textured look anyway, so that it looks like the light is reflecting through the window and on the window and just shining inside there. And so then I put a little bit of light on the niche over the door, like there's a candle in it right there. And then I'm working a little bit. I decided that I needed to straighten up the edge on the Spanish Mission there and try to get it a little bit straighter looking. So I added a little more snow on that side, and you would just sort of soften it down and just make it look like there's snow on the door, also in the little priest quarters, and also around the window that's there. And just kind of soften that in, make it a broken line of snow on the door and around the window. And then I added a little bit of light to the window there, and that just kind of gives it a touch that somebody's home, somebody's living there too, and taking care of the caretaker of the church. And so that just kind of gives it a little nice detail there. And I've added some snow on that roof also to that extra room there. And then you want to go ahead and add a little bit of that yellow color into your snow so that it looks like the light is reflecting on the snow from your windows. So go ahead and do that, and just add it down at the bottom of the wall and maybe a little bit above the door. And you just want to kind of give that look of the light reflecting on the snow. And then here I've added some more twiggy bushes into the snow poking out, and I've added a little bit of some white along the edges of the bushes to make it look like they have snow on them too, a little bit, and just kind of make them jagged and like they're poking out of the snow, and that just gives it kind of a little more of interest there. And those are eye stoppers too, because they keep the viewer's eye on the painting. And then I wanted to add a little bit of snow on the crosses on the top because they're wooden, probably, or they might be metal. But anyway, you want to add a little bit of snow on them, but don't kill all the dark. And you want to make sure that they can still see what these shapes are, and put a little more on the bell. That just kind of gives the bell a three-dimensional look. Put it on the brace that it hangs from, and just around a little bit on the clapper, and just kind of give it a little broken line so that it looks like it's got little clumps on it. And just kind of work on all those little details like that, and try to add all those little details to your painting, and it just kind of gives it more interest and makes it look more realistic when you do that. And you can use your script brush when you do this traditionally, and make a really thin painting mixture. And I'm also adding a little bit of some white to the bottoms of the bushes and the front where the light might hit. And just go ahead and smear it out into the snow. And then here I decided that the window wasn't quite straight, so I went ahead and moved it just a little bit more. And again, if you're doing this traditionally, try to get that right before you start with the paint. And if you can't, then you kind of have to just paint over it and move it along there. Here you just kind of have to paint over the color of the adobe. But if you do this traditionally, you're going to have to kind of move the window over a little. You might have to make it smaller, a little bit wider on one side. You just kind of have to work around it. So it's better if you can get it drawn correctly the first time and then add the paint. So here I'm adding just a little bit more of some snow color on the adobe again. And then here I wanted to add the Christmas star. And so I went ahead and used the straight edge and did the shape of the Christmas star, and put this on a separate layer in case you mess up and have to do it over again. Now, if you don't want this to be a holiday picture, I made this for my Christmas card. But if you don't want this to be a holiday picture, you can just put the moon here, and you can put a crescent or a full moon, just whatever kind that you want to put. Either one will look really nice. But I went ahead and made the star and lengthened the points out on it. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the cloudy brush, which is the sprayer in the sprayers, an Infinite Painter, and just kind of make a haze around it so that it looks like that it's glowing. That's the light color. And make it kind of a transparent paint there. You don't want it real thick because you want to be able to still see the star. And then go ahead and kind of smudge it out around. And if you smudge it too much, you'll mess up the star. So you have to just smudge it around the edges, and you may have to go back and repaint the star a little bit better and a little stronger. Or just leave it, depending on how you want it to look. If you're doing this traditionally, you would do this dry brushing. The dry brush technique is to let the star dry completely and then take a little bit of that star mixture paint and just kind of in a circular motion with a little bit of paint smudging around the star till it kind of looks like it has the glow around it. But be careful, don't use a thick paint, just a very thin layer of paint is what you want here, and not too wet. You want it to look really dry and just kind of catch the edges of the canvas. You don't want to cover up your whole star there. And you can also do this with the moon. Put the moon there, and then if you want a haze, like it's kind of cloudy or something around the moon, you can do the moon that way too. And so the star was supposed to be main light source kind of in this painting. So I've got it, the trees, the highlights on the trees are all coming from the star. And so also on the building, and tried to do that on the wall and all those things. And I'm working on the wall just a little bit more. And here's the stage where you step back and you look at it and you see what needs to be fixed and what needs to be added if you want to add a little bit more things. But it's getting pretty close to being finished. Here you might add a little bit of some grass poking out of the snow, just some old dead grass or old dead plants, kind of, and you can use that with your script brush, and just a light thin mixture of purple. And then here I wanted to go ahead and kind of add a little bit more dark back into the pathway, just to give it a, like the snow has melted, and just kind of redefine the pathway again a little bit better. I decided that I kind of had lost the look of the pathway, and so I wanted to redefine it again. So I just kind of went back with some of my dark color and some of my light color, and just made it look like there's rocks and things underneath. And I like to work with the filbert brushes and some of the old oil brushes and Infinite Painter that give it that look of it kind of gives you an acrylic or an oil paint look. And so here I'm just kind of smudging it out and making it look like there's a little more definition to the path, and there's a little more rocks along the edges of the path, and just trying to kind of get that little detail into the picture, that it just adds more interest to your picture the more that you add little details like that. You don't want to add tons of details that just overtake your picture so much that you can't even tell what something is, because it's just so much details and texture. But when you add them selectively, it is very effective and can make a really nice picture. And then here I'm just taking the step back, seeing what I need to put on it. Working on the edge just a little bit more, straightening it up on the old mission church, just some of the final touches there. Still trying to keep a little bit of some white on the edges, and just the final touches that I think that the painting needs. And working a little bit more on the snow of the edge here. And I'm not using bright white because it's nighttime, so it's not going to be a bright white for the snow. You want it a soft bluish or purplish color because it's nighttime and stuff. So that's what I'm doing now, just kind of stepping back or shrinking it down, looking at it, trying to see. Do want to add a little bit more detail to the stars. You might want to make some of the stars a little bigger, and add a few that way. Just make sure that you keep them in a random pattern. And then here I went ahead and signed it in the corner, but that doesn't always mean that I'm through. But this time I decided that was pretty good, and I should probably quit while I'm ahead. So this is the end of my Snowy Mission series, and if you want to stick around and see what we're going to do next, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions or any suggestions about what you'd like to see next, leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.